Ryan Lutz, a junior guard, will be here as well to give some remarks and take some questions.
Well, first off, thanks for you guys coming here and supporting us and obviously following us in terms of the media support. It's great for us to be represented not only in our community but also on a network as well. So for us, we're excited about this year. Obviously, we have a lot to prove, not only as a team but as a coaching staff. I think everybody's new and everybody's trying to figure out who they are right now, losing 60 years of coaching experience and 7 or 5 seniors. You look at a lot of experience that left this group, and I think for us, we have a lot to prove. And we're excited and eager to get after it and actually start real games. They're obviously coming here pretty quick. We have 4 huge days of practice before we can actually get into real games. Probably the biggest 4 days of our entire season happen today. We don't get a whole lot of time once we start to actually get back into things and work on us. A lot of times it's worked on scout-based and we're working on other teams. It's 4 days to really work on us. But this group has been working hard for 6 weeks now. We had 3 weeks of conditioning before that. Had a chance to play a couple exhibition games against some people and really measure and see where we're at. We're continuing to figure out who we are as a team. We lost, like we talked about, 5 seniors. We never had 3 players that are returning on the floor in postseason play at one time last year. So losing key components of those guys, we're excited to see what these guys can bring. Although we may be new, that doesn't mean we're young. We have 10 returning guys that are upperclassmen for us who've all been a part of success, been a part of 31-win teams, been a conference champ, been a conference tournament champ. So these guys know how to win. And so we're excited to see the development of them as players and how that translates into a new group.
First question is for Ryne. Ryne, just talk about the process of hiring your coaching staff, getting guys together. There has to be a case in point where you've got to learn to trust them at some point in time. Are you there yet, or is that just something that's going to evolve over time, especially when it comes to game day stuff?
Yeah, I think, like we talked about before, we're figuring ourselves out as a team and we're figuring ourselves out as a staff. What each person brings to the table, what are they good at, what do they excel at, how can they complement and make us better. And it's one of those things where you win 31 games last year and it's easy to say, hey, we're here to learn. And the coaching staff here is saying, hey, how do we take 31 wins and turn it into 33 wins? And how do we take 16 conference wins in a row and make it 17 conference wins in a row? And so for us, it's just figuring out what our strengths are, and it's a process to get there. And so for us, it's one of those things we take day by day, and as we get into different roles, we assume what we're good at, and we assume what people excel at, and we're figuring that out every single day. But it's taking some time, which is okay.
Is there one thing that when you made the transition from being assistant coach to head coach, that with all the knowledge that Tony and Mike were able to relay to you, now that you're into this, is there one thing that jumped? I didn't know that was going to be something I was going to have to deal with.
Yeah, I wasn't sure what my dad did upstairs. Sometimes I thought he just worked on a lot of sermons and played a lot of solitaire and watched Andy Griffith shows. But the reality is there's a lot that comes with the role that I'm in right now that I was unaware of, that he kind of did behind the scenes. And so all that stuff and just how that takes away, I think as a head coach, it's hard to be single-minded. You have so many different things and you're wearing so many different caps that you don't really get to focus on one thing and finish it to completion. So for us, it's being able to figure out that for my role especially, but just the knowledge base of the conference. I think even our coaching staff is unfamiliar with the conference as a whole outside of Alex, who's been a part of it. You know, Andrew's obviously a new guy on staff, not from the area, and Ryan was on the women's staff last year and was semi-familiar with the men's staff. But just getting familiarized with those people, you realize, you know, this coach – my dad and Coach Natalia were together for 17 years and had a lot of experience in the league, over, 40 years combined of league experience. So just learning the league, learning tendencies is all that stuff that we got to just familiarize ourselves with.
Has Mike and Tony made themselves available to you? Have you sought them out? Do you find yourself in that situation?
Yeah, I mean, I think they're great resources to use. I think we have two of the better coaches in the country right here in our backyard. And so for us to use those guys, and I sent my dad to work last night. I sent him to the Holy Cross game versus Andrews and had an opportunity for him to scout for us while we were away at a scrimmage. And so for us, I thought it was a huge benefit to have him come in and audit us as a program. He came in and watched multiple practices and just said, hey, where are our guys at? Who do you like? What are we doing well? And just really asking questions. He's kind of removed himself emotionally from the program just because he's not leading the group, but he's still familiarized with what we're trying to look for and our standards that we have. And so because of that, he can really relate to the things that we're trying to do as a team. And so for us, having him come in and just ask questions of a subjective third party has been beneficial for us as well.
Did you change anything from an offense or defensive scheme standpoint compared to what Tony and Mike ran?
Yeah, I think we just have to be – I mean, obviously we were pretty involved in the process as well. I never felt like an assistant last year. He gave me a lot of authority and power in terms of my decision-making the last 6 years. So for me, I never felt like I was an assistant. I always had a voice on the staff, which was great for me to have. But I think this year we're really trying to focus in on a couple of key areas. We're trying to focus in on our ball screen defense. We're trying to focus in on our transition defense. We looked at the analytics of it and saw that we were in the lower 25% in both those categories, and we needed to improve. We felt like if we could do the same things offensively, obviously we're going to have to be a little bit more post-oriented, losing the guard play that we did and having inexperience at that position right now. But for us, we feel like we're going to play through the post a lot more. We're not going to be, like I said before, we're not going to be this Oregon football team that just scores a bunch of points. The old Oregon football teams, we're going to be a little bit more like the Tide and come in waves and use our bench and use our depth to really wear teams down.
Gage, have you seen anything different from what Coach Ryne did and what Coach Mike did in terms of practices or just things in general?
The main difference that I've noticed from Coach Lightfoot, young Coach Lightfoot, from old Coach Lightfoot, is that practices are more like it's learning from your mistakes. Old Coach Lightfoot would stop it and he would explain to us constantly, but Ryne kind of just lets us go through and play through everything.
Gage, explain the hairdo.
Well, I just woke up right before I walked in here and I didn't have time to get it braided, so I just put it in a little bun.
Did Coach Lightfoot to get his hair done that way?
I wish.
Oh, yeah.
Gage, just talk about your expectations for you as a senior. It's always difficult when there's a coaching transition, but here it is, your final year. Is it really significant for you as an athlete with what Ryne is doing compared to Coach Mike Lightfoot?
Oh, I mean, like Ryne said earlier, he had a lot of freedom in these past years, so it really doesn't feel like that big of a change because Ryne's voice is the same to me that it's been throughout my 3 years here, going on my 4th. So, I mean, I guess it's not that big of a difference to me.
Are you healthy?
I'm as healthy as I'm going to be, yeah.
Ryne, can you talk about, I know that you've had some of the big guys have had some bumps and bruises along the way. You really haven't had a cohesive group, but really for a whole stretch of games. Can you talk about the depth of the guys up front as well as what's the health of these guys?
Yeah, I think our front court is as tough as any team in the country. We obviously have Gage. He's been an anchor for us, led the country in field goal percentage the last few years. Obviously, we don't let him shoot outside 15 feet, but he's expanding his game more and more to that point. Obviously, Paul has made huge strides in his game and where he came on late for us last year. I think that was a difference maker for us. In terms of his physicality and what he brings and his versatility, his ability to rebound the basketball for us outside of his position is awesome, and it really helps these guys, helps Gage especially in rebounding. And then Luke Fisher, I think Luke's kind of that forgotten guy on our team that was, all conference as a freshman, all freshman team. Got hurt that last summer. Had a rough year last year just transitioning in. I wouldn't call it a sophomore slump just because he wasn't healthy. And so for him to get back into things, he's working really hard right now, both in the weight room and on the court, So those three guys are our anchors of our team. And then you add depth with guys like Kyle Thompson, who've continued to get better and can add some valuable minutes for us just because his basketball IQ and his ability to make plays with the basketball for us is going to be huge for us. So our guys are getting healthy. That's always been an issue for us. We're trying to make sure that we're handling it in the right way, making sure they're still getting great treatment, getting in the weight room, and not losing that factor as well. So we've made some huge strides in that area. It's just keeping that consistent throughout the 30 games we play.
Clay, Caleb, and Jordan a year ago had the ball in their hands probably 90% of the time.
Yeah.
And that's all gone. So can you talk about the guys who are going to be able to get the ball to the big guys?
Yeah, I think if we can get the ball up the floor, we're going to be pretty good. And so for us, we've added some nice pieces for us, some transfer pieces. Ryne Lutz, obviously coming over from Holy Cross, was a huge benefit for us. Add some much-needed experience. We returned 23 minutes combined from our guard play from last year. All those guys combined for 23 minutes returning. So for us to add a guy like Ryne, who averaged 30 minutes last year at Holy Cross, just bumps that number himself, doubles our experience from the guard position. Then adding a guy like Kyle Hartman, who we picked up late from Indiana Tech, was at Huntington to start. He started 20 games as a freshman at Huntington. Obviously played side by side with Derek Heinen, an all-conference player there as well. So adding two guys like that just adds some experience. Not only that, having our younger guys get a little bit older as well. Guys like Grant. Grant has never really been healthy for us. I feel like he's a guy that's going to be surprise some people with his length, his versatility, his ability to shoot the basketball. I think he's going to be a guy that people say, where did that kid come from? I didn't know he was even on their roster last year. And so we're excited for him to get healthy and back on the floor again. Guys like Trayvon and guys like Chase, who just continue to grow in their roles. I think that they're going to be guys, it's going to have to be point guard and guard by committee. It's going to be who's going to help us bring the ball up the floor, knock in open shots. And we've seen huge growth with Tanner Shepard, a guy who came in here as a golfer and then ends up being a JV basketball player. We move him up to varsity. He's made great growth in his body and his effort and his energy that he brings to practice. And so for us, he's going to be a guy that's going to add toughness and a defensive presence for us, which is tough for me to say because I don't think he could have guarded a bar stool 3 years ago. But for right now, he's a guy that gets after it.
Ryan, has it been a smooth transition for you, and what do you see your role on this team as? Ryan Lutz, I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's been a fun transition. I see whatever role I need to take as long as we win. I see a open slot up there on the wall for another red banner, and that's the ultimate goal. So whatever it takes to get there.
Ryne, can you talk about the spiritual development of your group? We've seen a significant one. You talked to Eric and Caitlin. That seems like that group is really, really pretty tight. Can you talk about that important dynamic?
Yeah, I think for us, having the opportunity this year, one of the biggest concerns I had as a coach was recreating the chemistry that we had on last year's team. Those guys loved one another. They were always there to support one another. They were both on and off the court. They were a really tight-knit group. So for us to have the opportunity this summer to go to the Dominican Republic and play 7 games down there, we had some great spiritual growth opportunities for us and saw some amazing things happen. One, Alex Daniel being baptized was something in my 6 years, going on 7 years, I've never seen, never had a player, never had a coach get baptized in our program. And then the water was able to have one more in it, and Gage made a commitment there as well. And just recreating those things and not just relying on our spiritual development that happened in the Dominican and trying to recreate moments back here through a book study, through a Bible study, through accountability groups that we have set up within our program. Just allow these guys to voice and process some of the emotions that they went through there, but also to recreate those steps back here as well.
Question for Ryan. Ryan, can you, as you look at the landscape of the Crossroads League, you play some of those Crossroads League team when you're at Holy Cross, but not as much. Have you been able to talk to your teammates as well as Coach Lightfoot about the grind of having to play these teams 2 and maybe even 3 times during the year? And is your body physically ready for that, or would you make any comparisons to the CCAC at all?
Yeah, I mean, I've talked to a lot of the guys about the Crossroads League and how tough it is, and obviously I've watched a lot of film on it, and it'll be tough and it's a grind. That's what they keep saying. They say it's something you don't know until you experience it, but I think it's something that we've prepared ourselves for as a team, and I've definitely prepared myself for it, and so I'm excited for the new process.
Excited about playing Notre Dame?
I'm very excited. Yeah, I mean, growing up around here, Notre Dame in my backyard, or growing up in Notre Dame's backyard, it should be cool. My first college game I ever went to, I remember, was at Notre Dame, and Chris Thomas for Notre Dame threw a behind-the-back pass across the court. So if I pull that out on Friday, don't be surprised.
Gage, could you talk about the exhibition game coming up against Indy?
I mean, it's something that we've been talking about for a while now. I mean, every day of practice, that's the game that we're focused on. I mean, I know it's not important to them, but to us, this is a chance for us to prove what we're about. And, I'm really looking forward to it.
Ryne, can you expand about the Notre Dame opportunity?
Yeah, obviously Coach Bray blessed us with an opportunity to go over there and play Notre Dame at a sellout crowd from over 9,000 people. Our guys just don't get a chance to do that unless they play in the state championship in high school. And so for us to go over there and play at Notre Dame, it's obviously a place for us to showcase what we're about and what we stand for, and hopefully show that there's not a huge gap. But it's also just a great recruiting tool for us. It's great for the community, great for Bethel to be out there and be seen at a national level. The hard part is for these guys is we play 2 regular season games on Monday and Tuesday. And we talk about how the Notre Dame game is a great opportunity, but ultimately it doesn't count against our record. We could win that game, and it means absolutely nothing for us. We have to win on Monday and Tuesday. Those games count. Those games matter. As much as we say everything builds up towards that Friday, we have to take Monday and Tuesday extremely serious, or we'll walk into Notre Dame 0-2. And we want to be there and obviously represent Bethel and our program well.
Ryne, can you talk about your other the freshman newcomers coming in?
Yeah, I think we got a good group of freshmen that coming in to just complement some things that we need. Obviously, Matt McCown added some size for us, and he doesn't, he's a guy that's got a great opportunity to learn from some of the best bigs in the country. He will not guard anybody better the entire year, and he gets to see him every single day in practice. So obviously, it's going to make him better. He had some length. We have a lot of stocky guys on our team, but not a whole lot of length, and so for us, one, it's good to see it in practice, but 2, it just allows him to get better as well. Nick Pluter from Ohio is obviously he had an injury this past year, and so he's going to have to redshirt for us this next year, which we're not looking forward to. But I think he's willing to go through the process to get healthy and get back in on the floor. Trey Burns, who actually redshirted last year from Penn as well, he'll be a part of our freshman class where we expect him to be a part of what's going on with our team, his ability to shoot the basketball. We have to work on some other areas with him, but I think he's got some experience for us. Obviously been a part of the practice team as well last year, guarding Clay, guarding Caleb, guarding Jordan. Every single day just makes you better. My favorite story about Trey is we played one-on-one for the first week of practice, and Clay would not let him put a dribble down. And so Trey had to figure out how to get to the ball, to the rim, how to use his body, how to use his ball handling ability to get to places where he could score the basketball. So for us, just playing against those guys just makes him better, and I think he's going to be an asset for us this year as well. And then Dom from Zionsville, I could make some money with Dom at the park. He doesn't look like a basketball player. He looks like a cross-country runner, but he can play. And so we had Notre Dame come in and watch practice with us, just opening up once again, auditing our program, seeing what we do well, what we need to work on. And Dom was one of those guys that they were impressed by. He was a guy that came in, he can play, he knows how to play, played in a tough league, just like we'll play one in the Crossroads League. He grew up around Indianapolis basketball, was a Carmel kid, transferred to Zionsville. So he knows what it takes to work at a high level and win games.
Coach, talk about the league in general and what challenges you're going to face night in and night out.
What makes this league so tough is that there's just no off day. And you look at our league, and it creates great habits for these guys. They don't prorate games. And so you have to win the games on your schedule. None of them mean more than the other. Beating Indiana Wesleyan at Indiana Wesleyan is the same as beating Huntington at home. There's no difference. Wins are wins in our league, and it's a way that's who's going to be tough and who's going to be resilient enough to figure out ways to win games, even if they lost a couple tough ones in a row, and win an overtime game and lose a double-digit game the next game. It's who's going to be resilient and handle that process and saying, okay, hey, we just got to take it on the chin and move on to the next game. The league is tough. You look at the top teams and where they're at and what they do. They're obviously extremely talented. We have great coaches in our leagues and great talent because of that. Look at Indiana Wesleyan, who brings in a Kansas transfer and 2 Indiana All-Stars. You got St. Francis, who loses some guys, but brings in Ryne, who comes in for his last year at the point guard position with all their guard play that they have as well. So the top of the conference is going to be really good, and I think the bottom has gotten better, and so it's just going to make it more competitive, and that's what makes this league a lot of fun.
Ryne, you've got two new coaches on the dais, if you will, with Marion and Goshen as well as yourself. Obviously, you think the impact that the new coaches will eventually change the way the league is or not?
I don't know. I think for us, it's just one of those things where we have to continue to see trends. I think Marion, obviously, Coach Hetty has connections down to the Indianapolis area, and be interested to see how he plays, what he does, what his recruiting style is. Obviously, he's in the mecca of basketball down there. He doesn't have to recruit outside 465 circle, and he could bring in a lot of really good talent. Coach Trofe at Goshen obviously learned from Neil Young. I owe Coach Trofe a favor because I thought I was going to be the youngest guy in the league for a long time, and so he took that away from me, which I'm happy about. I'm no longer the young guy in the league. So I think obviously you look at the standards of not only what Bethel's accomplished the last 30 years, but teams like Indiana Wesleyan and St. Francis and even Taylor now have done a great job. Coach Andrews there getting his team to the national tournament, returning everybody back as well. Gage wants to talk.
I think Gage had a few closing words he was telling me about back in the basketball office. He was going to talk until noon, I think. Anyways, if that's it, thank you for attending. At this point, we'll break off, and you guys can do individual interviews if you want. But other than that, that'll conclude today's media day. Thank you.